Hi, my name is Scott Goldberg, and welcome to my creative intervention. One of the most interesting pieces of work that we discussed in this class for me was not actually any of the literature we read. It wasn't any article or any oral history or any of the other many genres that we explored, but it was a video, and it was a video that we watched during the summer assignment that we were assigned for the first assignment of the year. And in this video is a TED Talk by Eric Liu. Um, he he discussed the idea of why ordinary people need to understand power. And for me, throughout the themes of power and representation that we explored in this course, he spoke to me more than anyone with the way that he felt that he could influence the people in his community and the way that we all can influence people in our community. Um, and when I reflected on why this was my assignment, I had to come to the conclusion that the most impactful works in my life are the ones that I seek out as often as possible. And I thought, well, why would this video resonate with me so much more? And then I think about my habits in my own life, and I thought, well, no, it makes perfect sense. Go through YouTube for hours in my free time, and I consume tons of video content, and I'm constantly absorbing in it. It's one of the ways that I learn about the topics I'm interested in. And so, of course, it makes sense that this medium spoke to me the most clearly because it's the most directly related to everything I do in my life. And because it's the most directly related to everything I do in my life, it stays in my head and it made me challenge my beliefs more so than pieces that I had to put substantially more effort in to understand. This was a very straightforward video, very straightforward message, and my attempt in making a video is to reflect that back to you guys when I start talking about, my experience with this subject. Um, Basically, the theme of what I'm getting at is that uh, this course allowed me to understand what powers exist in my life and which ones are held over me and which ones I can hold over other people through the relationships I develop and the accomplishments that I achieve throughout my life. And one way of this that I discovered, one way that each and every one of us interacts with, as a power system, is how each of us seeks and signals for approval. And this was an interesting concept for me that I explored throughout this course because I realized that when people are expecting something of you, it forces them to, or it compels them to do what they're told. If someone expects you to finish your assignment by the due date, you're compelled to do it because you want that approval. And if you don't want that approval, then there will never be enough motivation for you to do your assignment because the power comes in what the expectations that are held over you and the expectations you hold yourself to. And that can work the other way too. If you're in a relationship with a friend who isn't putting in as much time and effort as you are, when they start, not hanging out with you as often or whatever, and you tell them like, look, I have more important things to do in my time, it's because you expect less of them. And that puts you in the position of power because if they want to retain their relationship with you, they have to work harder. And that was a big lesson that I think I learned throughout this class. Moving on, depending on social circumstances, you, as an individual, allow yourself to influence and be influenced by and dictate how much power you have in every interaction you have. I know that didn't make a lot of sense because I was just reading it off of my paper, but the premise of what I'm trying to say is that in this dynamic that I just described, where you hold people accountable for what you expect them to do, and likewise people hold you accountable for what they want you to do. This is how power works in every system of government, of organization, of business, and you can use this to your advantage greatly because you can seamlessly, as Eric Liu put it in his video, a friendship becomes a subsidy seamlessly through the connection that you have, because the connection is what gives you advantage, and the expectations that you will follow through on something with a friend and having a good reputation, um, all strengthen your ability to make your own decisions that empower you and empower the people around you that you want to empower. Um, and I gotta say that as a civics professor, it makes sense that Lou wanted to apply this to the structure of a city. But coming from my perspective, I think that what his message meant can be much better applied on the level of the individual. And the reason I believe this is because on the level of the individual, you have complete agency, as opposed to a city, which even in the smaller community, you still have polarizing viewpoints. Within your individual, if you know what your goals are, there's no one conflicting with there's no conflict. And so when you're trying to do things in your life, like if you want to get a city lamp built in your city or something like that, if you're the one trying to advocate to do that and you are passionate about it, you can find a way to make the connections you need to get the things you want in your city. And hopefully, the people that see the benefits from that are empowered and are hopefully, open to doing the same thing. But they're only going to be able to see that if there's someone that can show that they have more power than they believe. Because it is a belief of mine that not many people these days actually feel empowered, because we've been suppressed for a very long time, and not everyone knows just how much they can do if they really put their minds to it. Um, and that's something I want to change about the world. I want people to understand that they can really, really achieve anything that they set their mind to if we work as a community, and if we and as we work on each other as individuals, we empower individuals around us to do the same. Um, you know, to demonstrate this, I'm gonna talk about a little bit of an unorthodox yet incredibly uh, effective example of someone who achieved immense influence, or a type of person that achieved immense influence without necessarily doing the traditional educational route, right? And in this case, I'm talking about the rap industry and how people have achieved absolutely massive stardom and widespread influence amongst younger generations through their music, coming from a position where they had nothing before, where they were, completely broke, they had no money, they had no choice but to make connections in their communities, and then use the people that they had around them to build them up. And then once they had made it to the top, they gave back to their communities, and that's how they achieved influence and power. It's a very untraditional way, when you think about people who just take the normal academic route or go into business or go into some other industry that's not necessarily as free flowing. But in the end, the objective is the same. The objective is that you're empowering people around you, and you're attaining influence through connection. And I think that that's really the biggest takeaway from my message today, is that each self-made individual has to have the will to be successful, will to find the way, not just the will to do it, but the will to figure out what needs to be done to be successful, so that they can do it for themselves, and in so develop connections and accomplish feats that would attract people whose approval they need to achieve even more success. So just to elaborate on that a little bit, once someone has made it big in like the rap industry or something, they already have immense influence. Their influence gives them the ability to influence bigger influencers and reach out to more and more people, and the networking of that can go on forever, um, as long as there's enough support behind what people are saying, and people are constantly trying to empower themselves, which hope for me that that everyone in the world tries to do. I really hope that everyone tries to empower themselves in their everyday life, and I encourage everyone else to do that as well. Like, I implore everyone to think about how you could use the dynamic of an approval within your parental relationships, teacher relationships, friendships, maybe, to see how power actually works as a dynamic, and not use it in a negative way, but use it in a way that allows you to understand people better, and hopefully empower your community through the things you can do with the connections you develop. That's all for today. Thank you for listening.